I should start recording now. Yes, so today's lecture and tomorrow's lecture, which we'll conclude, will be on the topic of international retailing. Okay, now international retailing is something interesting, isn't it? We are all affected by international retailing. When we are engaging in all the things we buy and return and all the rest of, of it, we are actually engaged in all of this, right? We are at the other end as consumers who are consuming products and services sometimes which are being sold and as stuff by companies across the world. So what are we doing today? In terms of the outline, we want to have a look at the international business environment for world's top retailers and who are they and how have they done. Some bits of information here might be helpful to you as a generic understanding about the COVID times. As we all know, that several companies have done so significantly well during COVID. Their productivity, their turnover have grown double digits, in some cases, enormous double digits. Yeah. And yeah, so we want to look at that business environment and how has the environment changed, and how does the future look like. International retail strategy, what affects international retail strategy, motives for internationalization. Why do they want to internationalize? What is it that attracts retailers to internationalize? What are the push factors? A retailer working, starting organically, developing and succeeding, say in the UK, what makes that retailer want to go abroad to another country that they are not, that aware of? So what are the push factors? What are the facilitating factors? What are the pull factors? We look at all of that, okay? And the motives. Modes of international entry. Now, the modes of international entry and factors affecting success, we will do tomorrow, okay? And the case study, a very brief case study of Zara and international fast fashion. Now, all of us, and the 31 of us in this lecture right now are all knowledgeable in terms of Zara as a business because we consume the products that Zara sells, right? I imagine every one of us do, but if I'm being presumptuous, excuse me. International business environment. Excuse me. Which are the world's leading retailers by revenue and growth? Okay, what is their country of origin and headquarters location, HQ location? Okay, how many countries do they operate in? How has COVID-19 pandemic affected their revenue? Which of the world's top retailers have grown the fastest during the pandemic? So these are some of the questions we want to ask and we want to make ourselves aware of. Yeah. So let's look at the next few slides and see what that is. In terms of the world's top 10 retailers, and the source is actually Deloitte Global Powers of Retailing 2021. Also, have a look at this when you have the time and you're interested to have a look. Top 215 rank wise, if we look at the top 10, we have Walmart. Yeah. If you look at the top 10, in fact, you find the majority are from the United States. Yeah. Number 1, Walmart, United States. Number 2, Amazon, United States. Number 3, Costco Wholesale Corporation, United States. Number 5, Kroger, United States. Walgreens, Boots Alliance, United States. The Home Depot, United States. CVS Health Corporation, United States. So you can see the most powerful global retailers are actually there sitting in the United States. But of all of these ones that I've just mentioned here that are in the States, you find that Kroger, let's have a look at this one. Kroger is the only company here, which is it's 5th rank in the world, which is just enormous. Look at the revenue, look at the retail revenue growth, etc. But how many countries do they actually operate in? Only one. They only operate. This is an example of a world famous top 5 retailer in the world, and they have been maintaining their position over the years, which only operates in America. It has not chosen to internationalize. It has not chosen to become global. And I think it's worth kind of, you know, checking out this space in the future and saying, where does Kroger go? Or does it really internationalize over time or not, as its market gets more and more, you know, as more and more entrants come in the market and other retailers become more and more powerful. So you can see that in terms of the operations, if you look at Walmart, percentage retail revenue from foreign operations is 23.2%. Schwartz Group, 66%. Aldi, look at Aldi. We talk about Aldi quite a bit, right? Aldi comes from Germany. Now, Aldi operates in 19 different countries, but look at in terms of how much of its retail revenue comes from foreign operations. Near 70% comes from foreign operations. Tesco, yeah, United Kingdom, 8 countries of operation, only 18.3%. Only 18.3% come from foreign operations. So can you see the success that Aldi has from only 19 different countries? It works in 19 different countries, and it has near 70% of you know, it gets its income from foreign countries. Yeah, so it's pretty significant. Like if you look at Amazon operating in 17 different countries, 31% of its revenue from foreign operations. Okay, but this is kind of it's growing, although Amazon at the moment is slightly, I won't say struggling, but it's not doing as well as say a few months back. Okay, again, a space to watch, because you know all of these retailers actually affect us. You know, we engage with them rather than say affect us. The thing to say is that we engage with them. We engage with them in day-to-day activities, in day-to-day things that we buy and experience. So retail is a part of life. That's what I say. Retail is absolutely a part of life. We are affected by retail every day. And therefore, staying interested in retail, even if you don't work for retailing in the future, you are always a part and parcel of the interaction with retail in the world. Okay, so always remember that, because it kind of will hold you in good stead in so many different ways that we have also talked about in the past. So international retail strategy was top 250 retailers. In terms of statistics, what does it show? That you see, the United States has this, you know, 4.85 trillion in terms of the top retailers, yeah. And then over here, you find all the different statistics of where it does well. Top 10 listed, list led by US companies. Top 10 accounts for a third of top 250 retail revenue. Spanish company Inditex, owner of Zara, was the most international company in terms of countries of operation, covering 220 countries. Okay, so again, this is information. If you want to get more information, look it up. Global Powers of Retailing 2021. Deloitte's work, okay, in terms of the sources of the source of this data. Yeah, so you can see the growth. Yeah, so top 250 retailers with foreign operations, 64.8% share of top 250. So it's the top 250 retailers are pretty much dominating the world, of which the top 10 actually are the most dominant. Now, geographic distribution of world's top 250 retailers, okay, based on HQ, based on year-on-year, you know, change, percentage change, number of companies, and all of that. So you can see that North America sits far ahead of every other continent in the world. So North America, you can see it goes into trillions, yeah, into trillions, 3.6% growth year on year. 80 of the top 250 are sitting there. Yeah, the number of from the 250 retailers, 80 are sitting in North America. Now, if you think about that, then this is really a powerful figure. Now, when you look at Europe, you find that they have more of the world's top 250 retailers. They have 87 compared to 80 of North America. But look at, you see, look at the turnover here. Yeah, look at the revenue. Yeah, That's significantly, I would say, no, yeah, significantly less than that, given they have a larger number of retailers there. Latin America, as you can see, is much less. Only 11 of the top 250 are in Latin America, and much less in terms of revenue. Africa, only 9 of the top 250 are there. This is the revenue. Asia Pacific, 63 with that revenue. Yeah, but a lot of things are changing, and over time, many of these balances will change. And I think Asia Pacific is becoming more and more powerful. So it'll be a space to watch here. So, COVID, impact of COVID-19 on leading global retailers. What has happened? We know that if we go through some of this, store closures and restrictions, essential versus non-essential retail, travel-related retail, all of those things really, really struggled, isn't it? Yeah, non-essential retail. People stopped buying during COVID. People are not buying the discretionary items. They were not buying things that they really did not need. Travel had completely stopped. People were not even, I mean, during lockdowns, where we had several lockdowns, people were not even going from A to B. Yeah, they were completely stuck. The only reason you were allowed to go out was actually to go and get your essential products. If you were found to be gallivanting and going from A to B for no reason, the police kind of stopped you and all that sort of stuff. There's a whole lot of palaver that happened during the time. So lots of store closures. The stores that were selling non-essential products could not operate. They had to close down, which, as you know, has resulted today in many of these shops completely closing, as in they are dead. Yeah, they have completely closed down and perhaps might never rise back onto the surface again, because you cannot sustain that level of shop closure, of not having any business. And those stores and retailers who did not have, who were not already present online, struggled with it too. So it's a lot of different things. Retailer online strength and responsiveness. Those retailers who are actually present online, and those who are present, not only present online, but really, really well developed, have done exceptionally well. So existing online sales and delivery capability for some increased significantly. And many retailers, over here, for instance, really, really increased their online delivery, and they spent a whole lot of money on their digital positioning, and customers actually increased their buying and all of that from these kind of companies significantly. And those companies who could not really match up struggled and ultimately failed. Consumer stay-at-home focus, yes, all of us had to stay at home. When lockdowns happened, all of us, apart from key workers, had to stay at home, which meant what? That actually you were dependent on online shopping and delivery. In-home consumption stuff, was the thing, and travel restrictions and all of that. So takeaway places were actually doing kind of all right after a point, and people were cooking at home. So grocery shopping increased significantly. The grocery companies, the big supermarkets, multiples across the world have done significantly well. And retailers such as Amazon and others, have obviously had double-digit growth. And in fact, we found during that time that retailers who did not do any food before, okay, and only did discretionary products, all of a sudden started switching to doing some food and stuff that people could grab and go and stuff. And in that process, in that way, they could keep their shops open. That was after a period of time when they were finding out different strategies of how could they keep their shops open and how could they get the punters in. Growth in online retailing during pandemic. In fact, during the pandemic, the proportion of retail sales spent online soared to 35.2% from 19.5%, all in the space of a year. So basically, in the UK, we had 10 years worth of growth from online growth in 1 year. So in 10 years, we might have reached 19.5 to 35.2%, yeah, in terms of online versus brick and mortar retail. But actually, COVID resulted in that amount of growth, that significant amount of growth, all in the space of 1 year. So that says something. In Germany, online grocery sales grew to almost 90% in the second half of 2020 compared to the same period in 2019. In China, online sales, again, significant growth. In Latin America, online marketplace, Mercado Libre saw deliveries per day more than double for the second quarter of 2020. In Thailand, shopping apps jumped by 60% in a single month in March 2020. So you can see, what's interesting is that in France, the online share of retail reached 13.4, up from 9.8%. So that's actually significantly less, isn't it? Absolutely significantly less, which is quite interesting. And also it's interesting to see how in France, online is not as predominant as we have it in other parts of the world, like we have seen. So fastest growing retailers in world top 250, the giant online specialists Amazon and JD.com, so the strongest growth in 2020. So Amazon 2020 online sales growth estimated 50%, total retail sales 92%, as you can see, year-on-year growth 34.8%. Now that, if that is not seriously significant, I don't know what is. So you can see, yeah, you can see in terms of the top 10, these are the ones and how they have done. And again, if you want more information, look up the Global Powers of Retailing 2021. So we've looked at that. We've looked at what's happened during COVID and how they've done very well. We've seen how, compared to brick and mortars, which actually had to close down, apart from those who are selling necessities such as supermarkets, pharmacies, and such as those, brick and mortar stores pretty much collapsed, and the collapse actually led to permanent collapse in some cases with some retailers. Now, in terms of international retail strategy, international retailing, as we all know, is a growing phenomenon, but has existed for over 100 years. It has existed for a long, long time. Yeah. The question is, why do retailers internationalize? What is it that makes retailers internationalize? Is internationalization essential to retail success? Now, if we look at Kroger, where we said that it only exists in America, number 5 in the world, enormous turnover, but it has never decided to internationalize. So we can't really say that internationalization is absolutely essential to retail success. So why do retailers internationalize? So we will answer those questions, okay? The number of countries of operation also varies considerably amongst the world's top retailers. Some very extensive, some very limited. Some are international retailers, some are global retailers, okay? Can and should all successful retailers internationalize? I think this is well worth, answering as we go through the lectures. In terms of the international strategy framework, the 4 elements to international strategy, what are they? Number 1, international drivers, internationalization drivers. Why is it so appealing? Why is it so appealing to retailers to want to internationalize? What are the geographic advantages? Yeah, is there anything to be gained by going international? Isn't it better to keep your eggs in one basket where you're really, really successful? Why go to other geographic locations where you don't have much of an advantage in terms of your knowledge and understanding? So why do that? What is to be gained? Market selection. Why does a retailer choose a certain market at a certain time? Why there and why now? Mode of entry, how best to operate. Okay, so how best for a retailer to go to a particular country in its internationalization strategy? Does it develop organically? Does it, have mergers and acquisitions, and that's the way it enters the market? Does it do it by means of joint ventures? How does it do it? So these are things we will have a look at. Or franchises, what is it? Okay, the mode of entry. So these are the four main elements of the international strategy framework. So internationalize. So if you look at it this way, internationalization drivers, geographic advantages, mode of entry, and market selection. So there's a lot of question. Why, how, when, and why now? And how do you want to do it? And international versus global strategy. International strategy refers to a range of options for operating outside an organization's country of origin, right? But global strategy involves high coordination of extensive activities dispersed geographically in many countries around the world, such as Zara. Zara started off as an international retailer, and today it is a global retailer. It is present in so many different countries in the world. It has a global strategy, and it is extremely successful in its global strategy. In fact, its success has been even more phenomenal during COVID and now. And the different ways of how retailers enter into all the different markets, standardization versus adaptation. How do retailers go into this market when they decide to internationalize? Do they do it with a common format in terms of, say, does Tesco operate in X country in the same way it operates here in the UK? Is it a common format, or does it adapt it for local needs? What is the strategy? What is the strategy they adopt? What strategies actually work, and where do they fail sometimes? Global retailers with standard format: Walmart, IKEA, Body Shop, Disney Stores, Zara, Amazon. These are all global retailers who work with the same format. Multinational retailers with adapted formats. Now, many of you perhaps have not experienced any of these: Metro, Intermarché, Kesco or Kesa or others. Hybrid international retailers with a mix of common and adapted formats, such as Tesco, Carrefour, which you might have experienced. Yeah. And we will talk about this, some of these retailers, as to when they have failed in their quest of internationalizing, and how, when they have not adapted their format, they actually failed. And why do they fail? We'll talk about these things at the end of this lecture more tomorrow, as to what are the things that leads to success and what are the things that lead to failure. And despite knowing the reasons for success and what leads to failure, etc., retailers still go abroad and still fail sometimes. So these are just questions for you guys to kind of think about. And for those of the international students here, many of you are, what is the UK missing, do you think? Is there a retailer operating in another country which you think would really appeal to the UK market as offering something attractive and distinct? There's just a few questions for you to kind of think about. Yeah. Are there any sectors of retailing which are likely to withstand the drive towards internationalization? If so, why? Motives for internationalizing. Excuse me. What encourages retailers to internationalize? What are the push and pull factors? What makes one country more attractive than another? Again, here comes Pestel. Yeah, which bits of Pestel are we going to look at? What does it show? You can't just, go to a different country and start your operations blindfolded. You can't, right? You got to check it out as to, is it possible? Is it something that would lead to success, or are you going to fail? So there are some basic analysis it has to be done. Is the timing right? Is it better to be an early mover, to be one step ahead, or a late mover to learn from others' mistakes? Is the timing right? Is the process of going into a market right? Is it, if the timing is right, do you want to be, and you're the first mover, do you want to be organic, or how do you want to really get into the market? What is the position of competitors in the market? What are the push factors? Are there competitors you know about who might enter that market, who are very interested to enter that market and are actually going to, be the first movers? Do you have any advantage in your supply chain, in your logistics systems, in your distribution, in your economies of scale, where you can actually be the leader? So there are lots and lots of ways to lots of things to think about and very carefully analyze and ensure, and your data and information and all of that will make it possible for a retailer to make the right decision about the timing. Why not internationalize? What puts off retailers from internationalizing? Because we know there's so many retailers, big retailers, who do not internationalize. Why do they not internationalize? So the key motivating factors. So why do retailers internationalize? What makes them want to internationalize or make them internationalize as push factors? Yeah, perceived imminent saturation in domestic markets. Now, if you look at our favorite sector, the grocery sector, it does seem like the market is saturated, isn't it? We have a whole lot of players. It seems, we all have all the options we want. We have several supermarkets out there. We can choose where we want to go, and the size of the market possibly is not increasing that significantly. So does it seem like there is imminently the market is going to be saturated, and you think, oh, we need to spread outside. There is a push factor. Yeah, there's a push factor of imminent saturation. Now think of companies such as Morrison, right? Tesco is already international. What about Morrison? Morrison isn't. Is it time for Morrison to think about it that way? Is there a push for Morrison? Should they be spreading risk? So many retailers, when they are feeling that kind of imminence of saturation, and all their eggs are in one basket, they want to spread the risk. Consolidation of buying power, public policy constraints that prevents a retailer from reaching beyond the size, economic conditions, maturity of format. So there's so many. Maybe it's in the life cycle, and the life cycle of it is reaching a decline phase in the market. So rather than decline, given it has a big map, it's a mammoth-sized retailer, it has a lot of power. Is it time for it to diversify into another market? Therefore spread the risk, hedge its bets, not be stuck in one place. So there are different factors that can push retailers to go abroad, to look beyond their say borders. Yeah, but what are the facilitating factors? What can facilitate that? The push factor is there, but what could be the facilitating factors? Access to cheap and surplus capital, because it is, if the coffers are, if a retail is well endowed, it has a lot of surplus capital, it either invests in the retailing business it is doing in the country, but it is looking at saturation, it's looking at the market already has a lot, it's already working at its top. What does it do? It is a facilitating factor to go abroad, to go beyond the borders. Entrepreneurial vision, the leadership of a retailer might want to have that, vision, might develop that vision. A new leader might have a vision of going beyond the borders, want to spread and see the success go elsewhere. Inducement from suppliers. Suppliers might want to enter certain markets, but they cannot enter certain markets, but they can enter those markets through you. Removal of barriers to entry, information communication technology. If your ICT is very advanced, if your logistics is very advanced, you have suppliers who are going to work with you, you have surplus capital, and you have the vision to go, then these are facilitating factors, extremely good, powerful facilitating factors. But okay, you have the push factors, the market is saturated, you want to hedge your bets, you want to diversify, you have the economic conditions in your current market is not as brilliant, but the other markets which are looking really ripe for the picking, you have all these facilitating factors of surplus capital and everything else, but still you need to have pull factors. You still need to have the markets which are beckoning to you, right? Which are asking you sort of to come to that market, because these are unexploited markets. There are consumers sitting there who are absolutely have this demand that is not being met, and you can meet the demand. Therefore, you go to those markets. Those are pull factors. Preempting rivals, I just mentioned. If you have competitors in your market and you think these competitors are also going to be looking beyond the borders, you might want to prevent them. You may be more powerful and you want to utilize your suppliers, your surplus capital, your vision to go into this market and, take advantage of this unexploited markets. Therefore, you'll also have higher profit potential, unexploited consumer segment, access to new management, following existing customers abroad. So many pull factors. With so many pull factors, if you have the right set of, excuse me, I'm really sorry, this thing is not going. So with the right set of pull factors and the right mix of facilitating factors and with push factors in the market, it seems to me a retailer facing all of these factors will have a lot of motivation to internationalize. Would you say? I would say they would have a lot of motivation to internationalize. However, you may have all of those things and yet you may not do so. And we will see why you may not do so. Yeah. Despite all the positive situation around you. Right, just 1 second. Yes, okay, right. So assessing market characteristics, like we said, and you've done, test analysis is something that you've done, a lot. You understand about it very, very well. But the 4 elements of the PESTEL framework are particularly important in comparing countries for entry. So you have the market, you have the facilitating factors, you have the push factors, you have the pull factors, but you have to check it out, don't you? You have to really, really analyze the data, everything. So what are the things that you're going to really, really look at? Political environments vary widely between countries and can alter rapidly. Political is an enormously important factor. It has always been, it will always be. And if you look at the world right now, if you look at, sadly, the war that's happening, would any retailer who possibly was entertaining thoughts of going into the Russian market now go into the Russian market, do you think? Would they go into Ukraine? Would they go even to the neighboring countries of Moldova, Poland and others? No, they won't. Why won't they? Because the political uncertainty is enormous. And there is no, unfortunately, light at the end of the tunnel to say that this is going to become stable, things will improve. Nobody can say. Nobody on earth can say. So political environments are critically important. For instance, the Middle East, yeah? For a retailer, now there are some seriously good, rich markets out there in the Middle East, right? There's a lot of consumers out there. They're very well heeled. They might want certain retailers to be there, but certain retailers don't quite reach them because the political environment is not very stable. Yeah, there are countries such as, in terms of Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia and certain other parts there, it's difficult. It's difficult for retailers to absolutely know for certain that though they might be profitable there, they don't really know what might happen there over time. And remember, you don't do retail, you don't do business to last for a year or two. You want to have sustainable and sustained profitable business over a sustained period of time. Therefore, you want to have that confidence that those markets are going to be okay, the governments are going to be okay. Economic. Key comparators are levels of gross domestic product, or GDP as we call it, and disposable income, which indicate the potential size of the market. Yeah. So some markets with high level of GDP, quite significant disposable income, or maybe a large percentage of the population are middle class, and they have deeper pockets, would seem to be a good market. Yeah, but again, in the current climate, GDP is switching around like nobody's business. Look at our GDP. It's not looking too good, is it? So economic key comparators and how the market is doing, how the economy is doing is very critical. Social factors like population characteristics and lifestyle, as well as cultural differences. There are certain retailers who might not go to certain markets, say some clothing retailers, because it's pointless to be there, because maybe cultural differences or religious differences or whatever it may be doesn't sanction usage of certain products. So you can't be there. So social factors are very important to realize what is it that works for a particular country and what doesn't. And therefore, it's a risky things, and understanding culture is quite critical. Legal countries vary widely in their legal regime. We know that many South Asian countries in the past have been very protective towards their local businesses, and quite rightly so. And they prevented foreign companies from coming into the country as 100% in 100% format. Yeah, full FDI, foreign direct investment coming into the country, setting up shop, and powerful retailers. What would happen? The home retailers would completely disappear and vanish into thin air because the foreign retailer would be that powerful. So they have been very protectionist policies. So legally, they have been very protectionist. But over time, they're slowly changing the tune. Say China has been pretty open for a while now. India has not been quite so, but now it is, because these are some of the countries with the highest GDP in the world right now. Very powerful, economically very powerful. Though, of course, there is a huge percentage of population who are very poor too. But the middle class, upper middle class, and middle class are very significantly large. So I think retailers that want to internationalize have to be aware and wary and seriously analyze a whole host of factors before entering or even thinking of entering any market. Arguments for and against retailing. So for globalization, buying strong negotiating power in purchasing global brands. Of course, against most brands are local. That yes, there might be strong negotiating power in purchasing global brands, blah blah blah. But again, most brands are actually local. Yeah, there are people who may like certain brands, but then not quite so. Marketing deliver and lower prices through larger volumes. But again, you may not have any familiarity with local taste. So what you could do maybe in country, you may not be able to do there because you don't have familiarity with local taste. Though, however much you might think you have analyzed that you can do that. Logistics, what really works for you in your country, leverage superior logistics and management control systems might not really work there. These economies of scale in large organizations. Sometimes large organizations really fail when they go, because they tend to believe that they will carry on with the same systems, that the economies of scale will really work and all that sort of stuff, and they don't really end up successfully utilizing that, and it becomes more like diseconomies rather than economies. Difficult in maintaining central control across continents, of course, given all the different things that we just talked about. That can change. Yeah, political condition changes, economic condition changes, legal things can change too. A new government comes in, maybe it's still stable, in government way it's stable, but legal situation can change. They can change the way they want foreign companies to operate in the country. So there's a whole lot of different things. Financial, need to continue sales and profit growth, ability to leverage strong balance sheet. Yes, in your country, yes, but really, is that so? Against globalization, could you possibly, maybe you may not be able to work with the political economic condition. Exchange rate risk is a very big factor as well. Think of all the times when countries have had absolute dump of exchange rate. Malaysia went through that when the exchange rate of their currency went down into the dumps. So you have businesses in countries where the currency just drops. What happens then? What happens to your business? So there's a lot of things why retailers may want to really succeed really well in their country as such, and maybe diversify into other businesses, right? Into other businesses, into other products and services, but in the country itself, rather than diversify by internationalizing. Okay, so there are a lot of things against internationalizing. Why a retailer may not choose to do so. Cultural, bring Western management systems to other countries. Ha ha, doesn't work. And many retailers have tried to do that in the past and failed miserably. And so they should. And so they absolutely should. Because Western management systems may not necessarily work in other countries with other management systems. Insensitivity to local customs and practices. When many Western companies have tried to put their managers from here, for instance, go to X country and put them on the top and made them work the way they would work here with the people who are working in the companies over there in the host country, they failed because you're working with people. People may not necessarily work with you with your systems because you are being insensitive to their customs and their practices. So it is critically important for businesses who are really successful abroad to take management from those countries, to work with those countries with their customs and their practices. So working with the sensitivity of people and practices is critically important for success. And I mean, if it interests you, you could check this out about companies that have failed, where they've culturally failed. They have had everything going for them, but they failed because they couldn't work with the people there. They did not understand the culture. They did not understand the management practices. They did not understand nuanced behavior of certain, of the systems there. So these are important things because at the end of the day, we work with people. Actually, I will do a little bit of this one, okay? A little bit, but I'm going to finish off this lecture a bit early. Modes of international entry. And I want you, while even you're listening to this, think about anything you might want to ask me about the individual coursework. So I can answer it here rather than emails coming in anymore. Wide choice of entry modes for internationalizing, okay? So the choice of entry mode involves trade-offs, low cost versus high cost. So you enter a country at low cost, maybe you're just perhaps entering a country by exporting. Yeah, I mean, think about it this way, in a very small little example. When I started my company all those years ago, right after I finished my undergraduate course, was entering a market because I had a couple of buyers. And these buyers, I was very lucky because I came to know them in a different way before that. So it's not like I had to go and look for buyers, which is a very, very tough thing in a foreign market. Okay. So I started exporting, right? Low cost. It's a very low cost way of trying to, and I wasn't a retailer. And here we're talking about just a supplier. Imagine if I was a retailer, okay? I was a retailer and I was going into America because that's to the United States, and that's where I wanted to go and internationalize. Low cost would be just exporting there, right? So me, I was only a supplier, right? I was only a supplier. I was wanting to set up a business which was only an export business, okay? So I was exporting, and that's low cost, which means what? It also is low return. The only return you're having is what you are agreeing with in terms of the buyer over there, because remember, the buyer has to make a significant profit, and then that buyer will be selling to the stores like Nordstrom or whoever they may be, you know and they will keep a significant percentage. So your percentage that you're selling at is not very good. It's not very good. So it's low cost and low cost and low uh, profit too, and low returns as well. So low cost versus high cost. What is a high cost? High cost is where you're going into a country absolutely gung-ho, right? You want to go and make mergers and acquisitions, and you want to do this, you want to do that. We'll talk about it in a bit. And high risk, very high risk. And then, but the returns are also very high, right? If you can make a success of it, you can really do well very fast. Low risk versus high risk, small market versus large market suitability, low returns versus high returns, rapid growth versus slow growth, full control versus partial control. Rapid growth could be mergers and acquisitions. You can also have rapid growth by means of franchises. You're spreading and you have a whole lot of people come to you and you're spreading like wildfire. And slow growth, It could be organic. You go there, you develop, and you slowly grow. Organic growth. That's a slow growth, but that can be a very well entrenched way of operating in a foreign market. So the choice of entry mode involves several trade-offs. These are all question of trade-offs. Do you want low returns? Are you satisfied with low returns, or do you want really high returns? If you want high returns, you might have to go for high risk and high cost to begin with. Do you have the capital for that? Exporting or licensing is a low cost, low risk, low returns option, while FDI is a high cost, high risk, high returns option. So FDI is foreign direct investment. I remember when I did my MBA, I did my dissertation on foreign direct investment in India. And that was a really, really interesting experience of doing the dissertation. Very interesting experience. So foreign direct investment is a high cost, high risk, high returns option. So only there are, big multinational companies such as, if I think about it, because I did it and I interviewed the CEO and others of Courtaulds Coatings, very powerful company. ICI, Courtaulds Coatings, these are very, very powerful global companies, okay? And they go to countries and set up with FDI because they have enormous base, enormous powers, and governments often like to work with these kind of companies because they do also encourage and create enormous potential for work. Yeah. Anyway, hybrid arrangements through joint ventures and franchising are popular for internationalizing across continents. So what kind of hybrid arrangements would that be? Through joint ventures and franchising. Excuse me. Yeah. So in terms of a wide range of options, what are the possibilities for retailers to do? They could do just trading, yeah, directly export or indirectly export, indirectly exposed through businesses that kind of did in the trade with, who trade with, again, so indirect export, which is even lesser of a risk and even less in terms of returns. Contractual, we'll come to this in a minute. Equity based or FDI. FDI, 100% ownership, foreign direct investment, 100%. Or equity based, where you might be going into a country and you may hold 49%, and the host country retailer might hold 51%. So they have, slightly more power than you. So it could be joint venture, it could be a greenfield bit kind of option, it could be mergers and acquisitions. So it could be a whole lot of different things, but kind of pretty high cost, can be high risk, but of course high return can also be possible. Contractual in terms of licensing. So you license, they can sell the products, they can manufacture the products under licensing agreements from you. Franchising, we all know about franchising, about KFC, McDonald's, and so on and so forth. Management contracting, where you have people working where they're contractors through management contracting. You can have turnkey. Turnkey is pretty much like the word says itself. Everything is set up for you. You basically enter the market. You kind of turning the key, you get in, you start your business operation. So contractual, these are. Okay, so I think now we're going to stop the lecture and we're going to talk about your coursework. Okay, so in terms of modes of international entry, if you look at it this way, tradability and competitive advantages, what is it? Wholly owned subsidiary in terms of tradability and competitive advantage, where does it lie? In terms of franchise and licensing, joint venture, export, is it high tradability, the competitive advantage? Is it more? Is it broad? Is it narrow? What is it? And we're going to talk about all of this at length tomorrow. So now I want to ask you about the coursework. How many of you have any questions? Please ask me. You can text it or you can come on the microphone and ask, in fact. Are there any kind of, issues that you have in terms of the number of words, or you want to know, can you avoid this or can you avoid that, or any of those things? Anything, guys? Are you all nearly done? Is a title included in the word count? Yeah, I mean, the title, there isn't much of a title, is it? You're just putting your name down. It's an individual assignment. So I wouldn't worry about that because there isn't really quite a title. And I would also suggest to you that don't, there are 5 questions, right? You don't have to, for each of the sections, you don't have to put down the question and then do the sort of your response to it, okay? Just have them as different sections. That's it. Without any context to go over it in terms of questions. So yeah, because obviously it is understood that there are 5 bits to this. And so yeah, do your exact summary, keep it as succinct as possible, and just maybe have one concluding statement. No, it's a good question. You can focus on one geographic region. Yes, yeah, and you have the freedom to choose any geographic region you might want. Yeah. So yeah, or a country that you might want. Okay. I'm hoping that you guys are kind of nearly there and you're fine tuning it. Am I right in thinking that many of you are now fine tuning it? Because I think fine tuning is such an important thing, isn't it? You save yourself. Yeah, good, Helen. Good, Daisy. Fine tuning is where you kind of gather this last final bits of information, you input it, and you take out bits that you think, oh, actually, that's not doing anything. And when you cut down on words, it's like when we do, write research papers and stuff, we kind of, at the end, we really, what do you call, at the end we do all the fine tuning, and that's when we actually make the marks, so to speak. You kind of yeah. So those who are now writing it up, I'm really sorry. In the future, do not do that. In your semester 3, you're now nearly coming to the end of semester 2. In semester 3, do not do that. Please do not do that. Start working from obviously not right at the start, but start working a bit early. Don't leave it to the end. Mm-hmm. Leah asks a good question. Now, you see, online is all very good because during COVID and stuff, there has been a lot of, information like that. But you need to have a little bit in terms of journal articles and books. And if you look up Google Scholar and stuff, you will have information. But the point is, if you have not utilized those materials, if you have not referenced, or if you have not, you can't possibly be using a journal article, right? Or a book or anything if you haven't really utilized it. So yeah, in the final bits now, if you think that, oh, actually I could do something like that, then do it by all means. Can we include simple headings for each questions? Ravi asks. Now, if you think you can use simple headings without affecting your number of words and stuff, then do so. I'm not stopping you from doing it, but what I'm saying is you don't necessarily have to. And also, yeah, your focus and your concentration is writing about those 5 questions essentially as best as you can and saving up on the words. But don't worry too much on that front, okay? On the word front. That's a good question. How many graphs, images is too many? I don't think there is anything called too many, really. If you are using something to explain something, present something graphically or with diagrams, which makes it clearer to somebody, it can only do good, not bad, as far as I'm concerned. So I can't say to you, Daisy, oh, 2, or 3, or 5. I can't do that, okay? So yeah, I leave it to your judgment. You know, is this my problem these days? You know, Artem, what is my problem? I will again email this QR code for this lesson, okay? I think it's this stupid chest infection of mine that is not disappearing is making me do that. But Artem, thank you for reminding me. I will do the QR code just like last time. Send it after this lecture. Yeah. So, anything else? I'm hoping actually you guys, in terms of your other modules, you're kind of doing pretty well and you're finishing things off and stuff. See, until last year, I used to be the program director for all the master's courses, which indeed I have developed with my colleagues over the last 10 years. So I know each of these courses extremely well and modules. But I used to have everybody's information on my fingertips. Now I don't have them. So I don't know how you guys are doing, but I really do hope you guys are doing well. Ellen asks, do the figures for images, graphs count towards a word count? No, 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 no. Have you read my email? I did say that no, those do not count towards the word count. And yeah, they do not. Okay, so don't worry about that. Anything else? If you don't have anything to ask, I will be closing the lecture and then sending you the QR code. But if you have something, please feel free because I'm here. No problem. Thank you. Okay, Maido asks, I would like to confirm that should I add a cover page on the top of the summary, some decoration? Fabulous question. Add a cover page at the top of the assignments. What do you want to have? Only decoration? What kind of decoration? It's up to you. The decoration, don't worry about decoration. If you want to decorate it, feel free, okay? But do you need to have a cover page with titles and stuff? Not necessarily. You can only have your student ID. That's all. If you want to have a page with a student ID and some decoration, feel free. Not a problem. Will the marks be affected if we don't use the figures, tables, or graphs? You see, Ravi, graphs, figures, and tables add to information that you give because they give you, precise information. You can give me something in a sentence or two, and sometimes the sentence and two has to be corroborated. Don't remember, you can't just make sentences and statements which you think is okay to mention, but you have no evidence showing what you are saying. Evidence is critical, and sometimes evidence is so easy to provide by means of a graph, which is sourced, right? You're showing the source from where you got that information. So I would suggest to you, Ravi, if you haven't used figures, tables, or graphs, I would say you have time. You have time. Add them. It's a very good question because figures, graphs, and tables and stuff often allow us to present our information even better. It's more effective. Okay. Yeah, I like your smiley faces, Maido. Okay. And any more? These are really, really good questions. Okay. You guys are really thinking, and I like that. Yeah, good questions. Anybody else? Okay. So should I now? No problem, Ravi. Should I now close the session, or do you want to just think about things and just put it into the chat, and I will respond because I don't mind. I just wanted to do the rest of the lecture on international retailing because we can do the 4th and the 5th and Zara tomorrow rather than leave it in the middle. No problem. You don't have to thank me. You're absolutely fine. It's my pleasure. Last minute, people have questions. And if I'm able to answer them for you, I am grateful for that, actually. Yeah, so don't worry about it. So I'm here. No problem. If you think that you don't have any questions and you want to leave, you can leave, okay? Because I'm not doing any more on the lecture right now. So you're not going to miss anything apart from if somebody asks a very good question, then you'll miss that. I really do hope, guys, that you have enjoyed retailing. Um, and those of you who came to do retailing without perhaps any interest in retailing, at least developed some interest in the subject area. I will be sending out a feedback, module feedback, okay? I would really like to know your opinion once all the lectures are over. Because what you suggest, I can input for next year in a sense of improvements that I can actually bring about, okay? But next year is going to be very different. It's not going to be hybrid. Next year is going to be completely and utterly face-to-face, which is going to be excellent, I think, for me too, apart from if one is ill or anything, then one can do on collaborate. And students will not be allowed from rest of the world. I will send you the QR code, don't worry. It is not compulsory, Akashdeep, to add figures and tables, but if you do find figures to corroborate what you're saying, please feel free. And remember that the words, captions of figures are not included in the word count. So you might want to take advantage of that in the next few days. Okay? Yeah. No problem. Okay, so I will put the QR code on an email right now, okay? So it seems like you guys have asked all the questions you can possibly ask, which is all right. And if any of you feel that there is something absolutely forgotten and you wanted to have an answer to, email me. As you all know, I'm super fast in enjoying. I just picked up that word. I'm super fast in replying, as you know. Some people have emailed me at midnight and they have found a response back to them. Because I think if I'm up and about, I will respond to you. If I'm not in a meeting or I'm not away from my, I will always respond to you. I enjoyed the retail marketing management course thoroughly as I'm doing the price management course at the same time. I found it pretty relatable and helpful at the same time. Thank you again. Oh, good, good. Yeah, pricing is something that if you are going to be in retail, pricing is the critical thing. Like we've always said, the right price is very important because it's through pricing you can control your profit. You can chop and change pricing, but you cannot chop and change your product that fast. So yeah, good. Good luck. And all of you, all the best. And I will see you tomorrow. Okay? Any final questions? Have it ready for me tomorrow. Okay. So I am going to stop the recording now. Oh, I've done that again. As always, I keep doing this.